Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphan Last, aka Skylar Madison, and today I'm going to go ahead and critique this image as well as redraw it. You know, stay tuned for that, by the way, because I'm going to be freehanding curvilinear perspective.
Fisheye perspective for the layman.
Yeah. I'm going to be freehanding a background, basically taking this image and redrawing it the way that a professional artist would go about approaching an image like this. Okay, so the person who drew this image wants me to go ahead and give it a critique. And keep in mind that when somebody is asking for a critique, what they're asking is find everything that's wrong with this image and tell me what's wrong with the image. And so ultimately what I'm about to say is not meant to be offensive. It's just simply giving a critique. That's just what it is. And a lot of people, they wind up getting their feelings hurt whenever a critique is developed and given and such like that. So let's go ahead and get into this. Okay, so there's a first thing that I'd like to mention is this. Okay, I've seen this artist's, her name is Artsy, by the way. You can see it down there. And none of this is to say that any of the work is bad or anything. It's just to say that I've seen a lot of your images, and this is a well-drawn character here. You tend to draw this character looking pretty good. However, I've seen a lot of your drawings, and every single one of your drawings has a character that's standing in this pose, where they're just standing there staring at the camera. Just imagine a situation where you're sitting down with a bunch of people, and let's say you're showing them a photo album of you on vacation in multiple different places. Let's say you have a picture of yourself standing next to the Tower of Pisa, okay? And you're standing there staring at the camera just like this. And then another picture of you standing next to the pyramids, and the picture has you standing there staring at the camera just like that. And then you have another picture of you, I don't know, maybe at the Eiffel Tower, and it's a picture of you standing there staring at the camera next to the Eiffel Tower. And then you know, you have another photograph of you standing there next to the Empire State Building, and you're standing there staring at the camera like this. And you're trying to show people this photo album, and ultimately I think every single person that you're going to try to show that photo album to, they're going to get really irritated really quickly because they don't even want to look at the photo album at that point, because every single picture is the exact same picture. I mean, it doesn't matter if you saw the pyramids, they don't want to see you with the pyramids if all you're going to do is stand there staring at the camera. Like, there's so many things that you could do with this character. It's such a cool character. Like, you just refuse to do anything with this guy. Like, you can have this character, let me just kind of sketch out something really quick here, okay? You can give him a really determined look on his face. You can get his arm pointing towards the camera, and ultimately this is called foreshortening, and foreshortening makes images more interesting and oftentimes makes it so that you need to draw less stuff, and so that's a big plus about foreshortening. It's just something that a lot of people are afraid to do because they have difficulty understanding what's going on in the image. Like, you can give him like a really interesting looking action pose and have him just flying towards the camera. You know, I know he has goat legs, so might as well include the goat leg. I mean, and that's the thing. You need to work on your goat legs if your character is supposed to have goat legs. Like, they'd be something maybe like that, if you wanted them to be goat legs. And it's difficult to draw goat legs because that involves foreshortening. So you need to get into other poses than just this. I've noticed that whenever you look for a reference image, in a lot of your pictures, your reference image is just a person standing there in this pose, staring at the camera. And then you draw from that reference image, and it's a comfort zone. And if this is the only thing that you're ever going to draw, then this is the only thing that you will ever draw. You're never going to draw anything else if this is the only thing that you're ever going to draw. That's not meant to be mean. It's just like, think about it. If this is the only thing that you ever draw, it'll be the only thing that you ever draw. Period. It's just common sense. Like, let's say a nuke went off. like a nuclear explosion, what would his expression be? How would his arms be? Okay, that's his nuclear expression. Like, if there was a nuke going off, that would be his expression if a bomb went off. Boom! Oh my goodness. That's terrifying. He looks scared. So, stop doing that. Stop drawing a character staring at the camera. Okay, like, I know there are occasions where people are in that sort of pose, but try to add some sort of body language to the character. Otherwise, it's like there's no reason to look at the image. Maybe have him looking a different direction, where instead of him looking straight at the camera, you know, you can give him like an expression. Maybe he's looking up at something. The thing that I find most interesting about this picture is that you drew a background. That's the main thing that I'm paying attention to here, because I applaud anyone who draws a background. It's challenging. And so, let's get into this, okay? So, at first when I first saw this diamond shape up here, I thought that was a wooden floor. I thought that... Let me just draw what I thought I saw when I first saw this image. I thought I saw the shape of the room as being this, and there's the window there, and then I thought that I saw stairs going down, but that's not actually what you drew. In fact, I am kind of puzzled as to what the shape of this room is to begin with. I think that the reason why you drew the top of this table in this diamond shape is because the wall was literally going away from you, and this window should have been drawn in perspective like this. So we got this table, okay? So what I notice is that, okay, so there's no thickness to this table. It's like paper thin, and then, you got these legs. Ultimately, this all looks like it's one face. There's multiple perspectives going on, and it's not in the M.C. Escher sort of sense. This is like in the Picasso sort of sense. And if you're trying to draw cubism and such like that, then that's great. But if you're trying to draw something that's trying to mimic reality to any extent, then that's a bad thing, okay? So we have 1 and 2 problems with multiple perspectives. Now, this top of the table tells me that this is an aerial view, because we can see so much of this top face, and this oblong weird looking ellipse here, that tells me that this is an aerial view as well. But the ellipse, I can't make heads or tails out of it. I think you drew an ellipse, and then you thought, okay, well, there's an upper lip, to the coffee cup. But the thing is that upper lip is also on the other side. So it would just be an ellipse. It would just be a normal ellipse of some sort. It wouldn't be like so flat at the bottom and then so round at the top. It makes it almost look like some sort of weird swivel chair that you would see in an old 1960s, I don't know, sort of restaurant or something. This kind of looks like the seat cushion right here. I actually had to ask you, what is it that your character's standing in, and you said that it was a coffee cup. So you need to make sure that if you're going to render something, that you try everything you can to make sure that it actually looks like what it is that you drew, okay? Because, like, the last thing you want someone to ask is, what is that, okay? Like, that, if someone's asking that question, what they're saying is, that's not an identifiable object. I have no idea what that is, and that's a bad thing. So, the thing with this ellipse here is that its perspective does not match the perspective of this plane here. Like this, the top of this table here, it really tells me that like we're like holstered to the ceiling is basically what the top of this table tells me. Like we are pretty high up, and then this ellipse tells me that we're actually lower than what the table says. And then the desk here, I'm assuming this is a desk, I'm not 100% on that. It's a completely different angle. And so, we have 3 and then 4 problems with multiple perspectives. Okay? So, Oh yeah, and like I said earlier, the window should have been probably drawn, like I'm just guessing what the shape of this room is and how you intended to draw it. But I'm going to say, in all likelihood, my assumption is probably correct, and this is a five problems with multiple perspective. So this gets me to wonder, what is the shape of the room? Is the corner of the room right here? Is the bottom corner of the room going like this, and then you know, like that? I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking at exactly here. And then what we have here is another ellipse. This ellipse tells me that we are not looking at it very much at an aerial view, whereas everything else in the image except for the table tells me that it is an aerial view. We're ever so slightly looking down at this ink container. Okay, and so since we're looking down at the ink container, there's no possible way, like if we're able to look down at it from up top here, there's no way that we can physically have an eyeball down here at a 90 degrees so that this is just one squiggly line. What you needed to have is an actual ellipse here to keep consistent, and you need to make sure that that ellipse fits with the perspective of this ellipse and this plane of the table. Okay, and then we have another ellipse that needs to be here. Okay, now you can draw it as a partial ellipse or whatever, but there is an ellipse here because we are looking down at this. This ellipse up here tells me that we are looking down at the scene. So we have, let's see, how many okay, 5, 6, 7, 8 problems with multiple perspectives all in the same image. But it does continue on a little bit more. So, we have the cap on this ink container, and yet we have this pen that's inside of the ink container. So the staging makes no sense here. Like, how is this pen inside of the ink container if the lid to the ink container is on? Here's another thing that I've noticed here. Okay, there's no consistency to this pen. So you may think, oh well, the pen tapers out. And let me just go ahead and draw a pen that tapers, okay? Alright, so you drew a pen right there that should have been that shape, or should it have been this shape? I'm not really quite sure, is the thing. Like, you drew it at two different angles, so you need to make sure that if you're drawing something on either side of an object, that you make sure that it's consistent throughout the entire body of that object. Now, you mentioned how you ran out of ink with your markers, and so the lower half I'm going to assume is your markers, and then this upper half is watercolor. Okay, now this is what I would call a happy accident. This looks like wallpaper here, and it makes the room feel much larger than it really is, and then it looks like this is the ceiling. You may not have intended it for that to be the case, but that's just at least how my brain is perceiving what it is that you drew. And so yeah, that's basically that. So that's the critique. And you know, I do applaud that you drew a background. You need to actually draw in perspective in order for you to draw a background well, though. I have plenty of videos about perspective on my channel. You know, just go ahead and watch those and see what you can do with that. But most importantly, make sure that when you draw a character that you avoid this pose like the plague. So the original footage of this video was 1 hour and 20 minutes, so to save you guys time, I've gone ahead and split it up into 2 different portions. You can go ahead and see the second portion if you'd like. A card is up at the upper right portion of the screen right now, or you can go ahead and click on one of those clickable cards at the end of the video. I'll be redrawing this image to kind of illustrate how a professional artist would go about approaching drawing the image image that she drew. If that interests you, feel free to click. Anyways, guys, that pretty much concludes it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you guys would like to get more notifications from me, feel free to click on the bell, or go ahead and follow me on Twitter. A link is supplied in the video description below. And if you guys would like to see more of my content, feel free to click on anything appearing on the screen right now, such as the only clickable video, which is the next video in of this footage that I've made here.